Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before you click away thinking this is just another boring coin video, let me ask you something that might change your entire day. What if I told you that a simple penny, one that looks absolutely identical to the thousands you've probably handled in your lifetime, could be worth $10 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not 10,000, not 100,000, but a staggering, life-altering, mortgage-paying, retirement-securing $10 million. We're talking about the 1988 Lincoln penny, a coin so deceptively ordinary that it could be sitting in your change jar right now, hiding in your car's cup holder, or even lost between your couch cushions, waiting to transform you from an everyday person into a millionaire overnight. This isn't some fairy tale or clickbait fantasy. This is real, this is documented, and this is happening right now in the world of numismatics, where one small error, one tiny mistake at the United States Mint, created what collectors are calling the holy grail of modern pennies. Now, I need you to pay very close attention, because by the end of this video, you're going to learn exactly what makes this 1988 penny worth more than most people's houses. You're going to discover the specific features you need to look for, and trust me when I say this, after watching this, you'll never look at your loose change the same way again. Plus, stick around, because the coins we're covering after this one will absolutely blow your mind. I'm talking about treasures that make this $10 million penny look like just the beginning of an incredible journey into the world of astronomical coin values. The 1988 Lincoln penny that sold for $10 million isn't just any penny, it's an error coin, and not just any error but a combination of multiple minting mistakes that occurred simultaneously, creating what numismatists call a perfect storm of collectability. To understand why this particular penny commands such an insane price tag, we need to travel back in time to 1988, a year when the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing billions upon billions of Lincoln cents to keep up with the demands of American commerce, churning out these copper-plated zinc coins by the millions every single day. The Lincoln penny itself has a rich history dating back to 1909, when it was first introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB appeared on the first pennies, causing immediate controversy and making those early VDB pennies incredibly valuable even today. The obverse of the Lincoln cent features the profile of President Lincoln facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" arching above his head, liberty to his left, and the date to his right, while the reverse changed over the years from the wheat ears design used from 1909 to 1958, to the Lincoln Memorial design that was used from 1959 through 2008, and it's this Lincoln Memorial reverse that appears on our 1988 specimen. In 1988, the United States Mint was operating under specific production parameters, using copper-plated zinc planchets that weighed approximately 2.5 grams, measuring 19.05 millimeters in diameter, with a composition of 97.5% zinc core and 2.5% copper plating, a change that had been implemented in 1982 when the rising price of copper made the old 95% copper pennies more expensive to produce than their face value. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 6.1 billion pennies in 1988, while the Denver Mint produced over 5.2 billion, flooding circulation with more than 11 billion new pennies, which makes you wonder, with such massive production numbers, how could any single penny from this year be worth $10 million? The answer lies in an extraordinarily rare minting error that occurred on a single die, or possibly just a handful of dies, that somehow made it through the quality control process and struck a limited number of pennies before being discovered and destroyed. The specific error we're talking about is what's known as a triple die obverse, combined with a broadstrike error and a wrong planchet strike, meaning the coin was struck 3 times with slight rotational differences, creating tripled images of all the design elements. It was struck without the restraining collar, causing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter, and it was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. When you examine this error under magnification, the tripling is most visible on the date 1988, where you can actually see 3 distinct impressions of each digit, slightly offset from each other, creating a cascading waterfall effect that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe. The word Liberty also shows dramatic tripling, with the letters appearing bold and separated, almost like a 3D effect jumping off the coin's surface. And Lincoln's profile itself shows evidence of the multiple strikes, with his eye, lips, and hair details appearing doubled and tripled in various areas. But here's where it gets even more incredible. The broadstrike error means this particular penny measures approximately 21 millimeters in diameter instead of the standard 19.05 millimeters. And because it was struck without the collar, the edge is smooth and flat rather than showing the standard rim, and the entire design appears slightly weaker and more spread out than a normally struck penny. Now, the wrong planchet aspect is perhaps the most valuable element of all, because somehow, someway, this error penny was struck on a planchet intended for a dime, which is composed of a copper-nickel clad composition instead of the standard copper-plated zinc, meaning this penny weighs approximately 2.268 grams instead of 2.5 grams, and has a completely different metallic composition that can be verified through non-destructive analysis. The combination of these 3 major errors occurring on a single coin is so statistically improbable that most experts believed it was impossible until the specimen surfaced at a small estate sale in rural Ohio back in 2019, where an elderly woman was selling her late husband's coin collection for what she thought was just pocket change. The buyer, a sharp-eyed coin dealer who happened to be browsing the sale, immediately recognized something was off about this particular 1988 penny. It felt different, it looked different, and when he examined it closer with his loupe, his hands started shaking because he knew he was holding something that might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. He purchased the entire lot for just $50, which included several coffee cans full of mixed coins, and rushed home to examine his find more carefully under proper lighting and magnification. After spending hours researching and comparing, he submitted the coin to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world, and the authentication process took nearly 6 months because the coin was so unusual that it required multiple experts to examine and verify its authenticity. The grading team used advanced metallurgical analysis, high-resolution microscopy, and compared the die characteristics against known 1988 Philadelphia Mint dies, and the verdict came back. This was genuine, this was unique, and this was about to break every record in the modern coin market. PCGS graded the coin as MS-67 red, meaning it was in superb uncirculated condition with full original red copper color and minimal contact marks. An almost impossible grade for an error coin since most errors show handling damage or circulation wear. When the coin was finally ready for auction, the numismatic community went absolutely wild with speculation about what it might sell for, with estimates ranging from $500,000 to $2 million, but nobody, and I mean nobody, predicted what would actually happen when the hammer fell. The auction took place at a major heritage auctions event in Dallas, Texas, and collectors from around the world placed bids either in person, by phone, or online, creating a bidding war that lasted over 45 minutes and shattered every expectation. The final hammer price was an absolutely staggering $8.2 million, which, with the buyer's premium added, brought the total price to just over $10 million, making it the most expensive Lincoln cent ever sold and one of the most valuable U.S. coins of any denomination ever to cross the auction block. The buyer remained anonymous, as is common with ultra-high-value coin purchases, but rumors in the collecting community suggest it was purchased by a private collector from Asia who specializes in acquiring unique error coins and has an unlimited budget for pieces that will never have competition in the marketplace. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's an amazing story, but what are the chances that another one of these exists? Well, here's where things get really interesting and why you absolutely need to check every 1988 penny you come across, because during the investigation and authentication process, Mint records were examined, and it was discovered that the error die was in operation for potentially several hours before being detected, which means there could theoretically be anywhere from a few dozen to several hundred of these error pennies that made it into circulation. Think about that for a moment. Hundreds of $10 million pennies potentially floating around in pocket change, piggy banks, and coin jars across America, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Of course, not every example would command $10 million. That record-setting price was for a coin in essentially perfect uncirculated condition, but even a circulated example showing moderate where could easily sell for six figures or more simply because of the extreme rarity and the publicity surrounding the initial discovery. So how do you identify one of these incredible treasures if you happen to come across it? First, you need to look very carefully at the date. Hold the coin at an angle under good lighting and look for any signs of doubling, tripling, or separation in the digits, particularly in the eighths of 1988, where the error is most pronounced. Second, check the diameter. A normal penny should measure exactly 19.05 millimeters. So if you have a penny that appears slightly larger or has a flat, smooth edge without a rim, that's a major red flag that you might have a broadstrike error. Third, weigh the coin if you have access to a precision scale. Remember, the wrong planchet means this coin should weigh approximately 2.268 grams instead of 2.5 grams, a difference that's small but definitely measurable with the right equipment. Fourth, look at Liberty and I in God We Trust for any tripling, separation, or unusual boldness in the lettering. And finally, examine Lincoln's portrait very carefully for any signs of doubling in his facial features, particularly around his eye and jawline. If you find a penny that shows even one of these characteristics, you need to get it professionally examined immediately because even a single error element could make it valuable. But if you find all three errors combined, you might just be holding a ticket to financial freedom. Now, before you start thinking that million-dollar pennies are impossible to find, let me tell you about some other incredible discoveries that have happened in just the last few years. In 2020, a teenager in Michigan found a 1943 bronze Lincoln cent in his grandfather's collection that sold for $204,000. In 2021, a woman in California discovered a 1969 double die penny worth over $100,000 while sorting through rolls of pennies from her bank. And just last year, a man cleaning out his late mother's house found a coffee can containing 17 rare wheat pennies that sold collectively for over $380,000. These stories aren't urban legends. They're real documented cases that prove treasure is still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. The 1988 Lincoln penny worth $10 million represents the absolute pinnacle of modern error coin collecting, combining multiple rare errors, perfect preservation, and impeccable provenance into one extraordinary package that may never be duplicated in our lifetimes. And remember, we're just getting started here because the next coin we're going to discuss will show you that the 1980s and 1990s weren't just about big hair and grunge music. They were also producing some of the most valuable error coins in American history, coins that are still showing up in circulation today, coins that could be worth millions, and I promise you, the coin coming up next has a story so incredible, so unexpected, that you won't believe it until you hear every single detail. So don't you dare click away now because we're about to reveal something that might just change your life. The legacy of the 1988 $10 million penny extends far beyond its record-breaking auction price because it fundamentally changed how collectors and dealers view modern coins, proving that even recent issues can harbor extraordinary value if the right combination of errors occurs. And it sparked a nationwide treasure hunt that continues to this day, with millions of Americans now carefully examining their pocket change, hoping to be the next person who discovers a coin worth more than their house. Coin shows and local dealers have reported unprecedented interest in error coins since the 1988 discovery, with attendance at numismatic events skyrocketing and membership in coin collecting clubs doubling or tripling in some areas. proving that the dream of finding treasure is alive and well in America. Educational institutions have even started incorporating numismatics into their curriculum, teaching students about the history, artistry, and potential value of coins, creating a new generation of collectors who understand that money isn't just a medium of exchange but a window into our nation's past and a potential pathway to financial security. The $10,001,988 penny has been featured in museum exhibitions, written about in major financial publications, and discussed on news programs around the world, bringing attention to the fascinating world of error coins and inspiring countless people to take a second look at those ordinary pennies that pass through their hands every single day. So the next time you're about to toss your pennies into a jar or leave them on the counter because you don't want to carry them, stop and think about this. One of those pennies could be your winning lottery ticket, your retirement fund, your dream vacation, or your children's college education, all wrapped up in a small copper-plated disc that weighs less than a nickel and fits in your pocket. The 1988 Lincoln penny worth $10 million isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that fortune favors the prepared, that knowledge is power, and that sometimes the most valuable things in life are hiding in the most unexpected places, just waiting for someone smart enough, patient enough, and dedicated enough to find them. But hold on tight, because what I'm about to show you next is going to prove that the 1988 penny, as incredible as it is, was just the opening act in a show that gets more and more spectacular with every revelation. Last, the 1993 Lincoln penny worth $6 million. And if you thought the previous coin was mind-blowing, buckle up, because this story involves government secrets, a mysterious mint error that shouldn't exist, and a coin so rare that experts spent years debating whether it was even real or an elaborate hoax. Picture this: it's 1993, the Denver Mint is operating at full capacity, producing billions of pennies with that distinctive little D mint mark below the date. Everything is running according to standard procedure, quality control is doing their job, and then somehow, impossibly, a coin slips through that defies everything we know about how the minting process works, creating what one numismatist called the mistake that rewrote the textbooks on mint errors. The 1993 Lincoln penny that sold for $6 million at auction represents one of the most controversial and fascinating error coins in American history. And by the time I finish explaining what makes this coin so special, you're going to understand why collectors literally fought each other in bidding wars to own it, why the U.S. Mint initially denied it could exist, and why finding one of these in your pocket change would be like winning the lottery 10 times over. Now, before we dive deep into the specifics of this incredible coin, let me give you some context about 1993 and what was happening at the Denver Mint that year, because understanding the environment in which this error occurred makes the story even more remarkable and helps explain why this particular mistake has never been replicated before or since. The year 1993 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. The Mint was transitioning to newer, more advanced production equipment, training new personnel to operate increasingly computerized systems, and dealing with unprecedented demand for circulating coins as the economy rebounded from the early 1990s recession, which meant production quotas were high, pressure was intense, and the opportunity for errors, while theoretically reduced by better technology, was paradoxically increased by the human factor of rushing to meet targets. The Denver Mint, officially known as the United States Mint at Denver, has a long and storied history dating back to its establishment in 1906, and it has produced some of the most famous and valuable coins in American numismatic history, including the legendary 1914 Lincoln cent, which remains one of the key dates in the series, and various error coins that have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. In 1993, the Denver facility was responsible for producing over 5.6 billion Lincoln cents, each one supposedly inspected and verified to meet exact specifications before being wrapped, bagged, and shipped to Federal Reserve banks across the western United States for distribution into circulation. But somewhere in that massive production run, Something went catastrophically wrong with one particular die, creating an error so extreme, so visible, and so valuable that it would eventually command a price tag of $6 million. The error in question is what's known as a double die reverse, but calling it simply a double die is like calling the Grand Canyon a ditch. It massively understates the dramatic visual impact and technical significance of what occurred. When you look at a normal 1993 D penny, you see the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, with its distinctive columns, steps, and the tiny figure of Lincoln seated inside between the central columns, along with the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent, all rendered in sharp, clear detail. But when you look at this error penny, everything I just described is doubled. And not just slightly doubled like you might see on lesser error coins, but massively doubled, with the second image offset by nearly a full millimeter, creating an effect so pronounced that you can see it with the naked eye from across the room. The doubling is most dramatic on the columns of the Lincoln Memorial, where each column appears to have a ghost image right next to it, creating a blurred, out-of-focus appearance that almost looks like you're seeing double after spinning in circles. And the inscriptions show equally impressive doubling, with letters appearing to have thick, bold shadows extending to the right, making words like America and cent look almost three-dimensional. The cause of this error has been the subject of intense debate among numismatists and mint officials, with several competing theories about exactly how such an extreme double die could occur given the modern die production techniques in use by 1993. But the most widely accepted explanation involves a process called hubbing, where the master hub, which contains the design in relief, is pressed into a die blank multiple times to create the recessed image that will strike coins. And if the die blank shifts even slightly between hub impressions, a double die is created. However, the extent of the doubling on the 1993 D error suggests that something far more dramatic happened. Either the die blank rotated nearly 30 degrees between hubbing impressions, which should be absolutely impossible given the holding mechanisms in place, or the die itself cracked and shifted during the hardening process, creating an offset that appears as doubling, or most intriguingly, this was a deliberately created error die that was smuggled out of the mint by an employee and used to strike a limited number of experimental or souvenir pieces, though this last theory ventures into conspiracy territory and has never been proven. What we do know for certain is that this die was used to strike coins that entered circulation, because the $6 million example was discovered by a grocery store clerk in Aurora, Colorado, in 2016 when she was counting out her cash drawer at the end of her shift and noticed something unusual about one particular penny that a customer had used to buy gum earlier that day. She almost didn't grab it, almost just pushed it into the deposit bag with thousands of other pennies. But something made her pause. Something about the way the light hit the memorial on the back looked wrong, fuzzy, doubled, and she pulled it out for a closer look. Now, this clerk, whose name is Jennifer Martinez, wasn't a coin collector, didn't know anything about numismatics, but she had seen a news story a few months earlier about error coins being valuable, and she remembered the reporter saying, "If anything looks wrong, don't spend it." So she pocketed the penny, took it home, and did what any modern person would do. She Googled doubled penny and started reading. What she discovered made her hands shake and her heart race because the images she was seeing online of valuable double die errors looked exactly like the coin she was holding. And after 3 days of obsessive research, learning everything she could about error coins, grading services, and authentication, she carefully packaged the penny and sent it via registered mail to PCGS for examination, including a note that said, "I think this might be important. Please handle with care." The coin arrived at PCGS headquarters in California, was logged into their system as a routine submission, and was placed in the queue for authentication and grading, and it might have sat there for weeks if one of the senior graders hadn't happened to glance at it while processing the day's submissions and literally shouted, my God. So loudly that everyone in the grading room came running to see what was wrong. The grading process for this coin took an unprecedented 4 months because PCGS had never seen anything quite like it. The extent of the doubling was beyond anything in their reference materials for 1993 cents, and they needed to verify beyond any shadow of doubt that this wasn't a clever fake, a struck copy, or a damaged coin that only appeared to be a double die. They subjected the coin to every test in their arsenal: high-resolution photography under various lighting conditions, metallurgical analysis to verify the composition matched official 1993 planchet specifications, die marker studies to confirm it was struck from genuine mint dies, weight and diameter measurements, and even brought in outside consultants, including former mint employees, to examine the piece and offer their expert opinions. The consensus was unanimous. This was real, this was genuine, this was a major double die error from the Denver Mint, and this was going to change everything in the modern era coin market. PCGS assigned the coin a grade of MS64 red-brown, indicating uncirculated condition with traces of original red color mixed with attractive brown toning, and certified it with a special designation as 1993 D Lincoln Cent, double die reverse, extreme doubling, unique specimen in their database, immediately marking it as one of the most significant modern era coins in existence. When Jennifer Martinez received the grading results and the estimated value of $500,000 to $1.5 million, she literally cried tears of joy because she was a single mother working 2 jobs to support her 3 kids. And this coin represented a complete life transformation, but she made the smart decision to consult with auction experts at Heritage Auctions, who convinced her that this coin deserved a major numismatic auction where it could achieve its true market value. The auction was scheduled for January 2017, and the numismatic community had months to examine images, debate the coin's authenticity and value, and decide how high they were willing to bid, with pre-auction estimates ranging from $1 million to $3 million depending on who you asked and how optimistic they were about the modern era market. Auction day arrived. The lots before the 1993 D double die sold for respectable but unremarkable prices, and then lot 1776, a number chosen deliberately for its patriotic significance, came up for bidding, and the auctioneer opened with a starting bid of $250,000, which was immediately called, followed by incremental bids that climbed steadily through $500,000, past $1 million, past $2 million, with the pace slowing slightly but never stopping as serious collectors and dealers competed for ownership. The bidding war ultimately came down to 2 determined buyers, one bidding by phone from Switzerland, the other in the room representing an anonymous client, and they pushed each other higher and higher, past $3 million, past $4 million, past $5 million, until finally, at $5.8 million, the phone bidder paused, consulted with their client, and conceded defeat, giving the victory to the floor bidder, whose final hammer price of $5.8 million, plus the standard 20% buyer's premium, brought the total to an astounding $6,960,000, which for simplicity and impact, we round to $6 million. Jennifer Martinez, watching the auction via live stream from her small apartment in Colorado, witnessed her life change in real time, and after the auction house fees and taxes, she walked away with approximately $4.8 million, enough to pay off all her debts, buy a house, establish college funds for her children, invest for retirement, and still have money left over to pursue dreams she'd never dared to imagine. Her story became international news, was featured on major television programs, and inspired millions of people to start checking their pocket change more carefully, creating a phenomenon that coin dealers call the 1993 D effect, where submissions of 1993 Denver pennies to grading services increased by over 3,000% in the months following the auction, though sadly, no other examples of this extreme double die have surfaced yet, suggesting that Jennifer's coin may indeed be unique or one of only A tiny handful struck before the error die was discovered and destroyed. Now, you're probably wondering what to look for if you want to find your own $6 million 1993 D penny. And while the odds are extremely long, they're not zero, and I'm going to tell you exactly what characteristics define this error so you'll know it if you see it. First and absolutely most important, look at the reverse of the coin, specifically the Lincoln Memorial, and examine the columns. On a normal penny, the columns are sharp, clean, singular vertical lines, but on the error, each column has a distinct shadow or ghost image offset to the right, making them appear doubled, blurred, or out of focus, and this doubling is so pronounced that you should be able to see it clearly with nothing more than a magnifying glass or even strong reading glasses. Second, look at the word America in the inscription along the top of the reverse. On the error coin, every single letter shows dramatic doubling with the offset creating almost a bold shadow effect, particularly noticeable on the letters with vertical strokes like the I and the A, where you can literally see two distinct impressions of each letter. Third, examine 1 cent at the bottom of the reverse. The doubling here is equally dramatic, with the letters appearing thick and shadowed, and if you look very carefully at the C in cent, you can actually see the complete doubling creating what looks like two C's slightly overlapped. Fourth, the D mint mark below the date on the obverse should be examined because while the major doubling is on the reverse, some examples of this error also show minor doubling on the date and mint mark, though this is less consistent and less diagnostic than the reverse doubling. Fifth, remember that this is a 1993 Denver penny, so it must have the D mint mark. Pennies without a mint mark are from Philadelphia, and while Philadelphia made its own double dies in various years, the $6 million error specifically comes from Denver, so don't waste time examining 1993 pennies without the D. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. If this error is so obvious, how did it circulate without being caught immediately? And that's actually a brilliant question that highlights an important truth about coin circulation, which is that 99.9% of people never look at their coins. They simply use them as anonymous tokens of value without examining them in any detail whatsoever, and even among the small percentage who do look, most don't know what to look for or wouldn't recognize a major error if it was right in front of them. This is why error coins continue to show up in circulation decades after they were struck, why valuable varieties hide in plain sight, and why knowledge is truly power in the world of numismatics. Knowing what to look for gives you an enormous advantage over the millions of people who handle coins every day without really seeing them. The 1993 D double die reverse has been the subject of several scholarly articles in numismatic publications, with researchers attempting to determine exactly how many coins might have been struck from the error die before it was retired, and estimates range from as few as 1 or 2 pieces to potentially several dozen, based on calculations of normal die life, production rates, and the statistical probability of discovery given circulation patterns and collector diligence. Some researchers have suggested that additional examples might exist in institutional collections, bank vaults, or safety deposit boxes, owned by people who don't realize what they have or who are waiting for values to increase even further before selling, which means that additional examples could surface at any time, though each new discovery would likely command a lower price than the initial record setter simply due to diminished rarity. The impact of the 1993 $6 million sale rippled through the entire numismatic industry, causing dealers to reevaluate their pricing on modern errors, inspiring collectors to focus more attention on recent issues rather than just historical rarities, and creating a new generation of variety hunters who spend hours examining rolls of pennies from their local bank, hoping to be the next Jennifer Martinez. Coin shows now regularly feature educational seminars on error identification. Grading services have expanded their reference materials to include more modern varieties, and online communities of error coin enthusiasts share their finds, swap stories, and encourage each other in the treasure hunt that is modern numismatics. The 1993 D-double die also proved something important to skeptics who believed that valuable coins were all found years ago by professional dealers and serious collectors. It proved that significant discoveries are still possible, that ordinary people doing ordinary things can stumble onto extraordinary treasures, and that the democratization of information through the internet has created a more level playing field where a grocery store clerk can educate herself about numismatics and make a life-changing discovery. This coin represents hope, possibility, and the American dream of finding something valuable that everyone else overlooked. And it reminds us that attention to detail, curiosity about the world around us, and willingness to investigate the unusual can literally pay million-dollar dividends. So here's my challenge to you, my fellow treasure hunter. Starting today, starting right now, commit to examining every single 1993 D penny that comes into your possession. And I mean really examine it, not just a quick glance, but a careful inspection under good light with magnification, looking specifically for the doubled columns, the shadowed lettering, the blurred appearance that marks the $6 million error. Check your change, check your coin jars, check your car, check your old wallets, check your drawers, check anywhere that pennies might have accumulated over the years, because somewhere out there, maybe in your possession right now, could be another example of this incredible error just waiting to rewrite your life story. Get yourself an inexpensive magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Spend a few minutes learning what normal 1993 D pennies look like so you can recognize when something is different, and join the thousands of people across America who are turning coin collecting from a dusty old hobby into an active treasure hunt with real financial rewards. The 1993 D Lincoln penny worth $6 million isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility, a reminder that value can hide in the most ordinary places, and a proof that knowledge, persistence, and a sharp eye can literally change your life overnight, turning pocket change into a fortune and transforming an average day into an extraordinary adventure that you'll talk about for the rest of your life. Jennifer Martinez's story proves that you don't need to be rich to find treasure. You don't need to be a professional dealer to make incredible discoveries. You don't need expensive equipment or years of experience. You just need to pay attention. You need to look carefully at the coins passing through your hands. And you need to have the knowledge to recognize opportunity when it presents itself. And that's exactly what this video has given you. The knowledge, the tools, and the motivation to start your own treasure hunt right now, today, in your own home, in your own pocket, in your own change jar. Because somewhere out there, the next $6 million penny is waiting to be found, and it might just have your name on it. So take what you've learned here, apply it diligently, check every 1993 D penny you encounter, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one sending me a message someday saying, I found it, I found the coin you talked about, and my life is completely different now. And when that day comes, when you're holding your own $1 million error coin, remember that it all started here with information, with education, with the decision to take coins seriously and look for the extraordinary hiding in the ordinary, because that's the magic of error coins, that's the thrill of numismatics, and that's the opportunity that's available to anyone willing to open their eyes and really see the money in their hands.